Would you like to learn how to make this beautiful rose? Well, this video tutorial will show you how to do that. These are the supplies that you will need. Some cardstock, 2.5 by 5, and in this case I've chosen pink pirouette, a bone folder, a flower punch, and this is the extra large flower punch, some Tombow glue, some ink, and in this case it's rose red, and a sponge so you can sponge the edges of the flowers, some paper clips, and scissors. Take the cardstock and destroy the fibers, and you can do this by moving this back and forth until the piece of cardstock is easily pliable. You can also do this by rubbing it against a desk. With the punch, punch out three flowers. Using the rose red ink, pick up each of the petals and sponge the edges. Now we're ready to start cutting the petals into pieces. I have numbered the flowers so that it's easier for you to follow. With the flower petal number 1, you just cut between one of the petals right to the middle. With petal number 2, you cut out one complete petal. Petal number 3, you cut out 2 complete petals. Now you'll see that we have 5 separate pieces. Now it's time to start assembling the flower. You pick up the first petal that you just cut a split in the middle, and if you find that the cardstock is still not pliable enough, you can kind of play with it. What you need to do is fold this petal over to this petal, apply some glue, and then put a paper clip on it to hold it. So just apply a little bit of Tombow glue and just move it over and try to match up the petals. So now you have a total of 4 petals. And you put the paper clip on to hold it until the glue is dry. So that's the first one. With petal number 2, again, make sure it's pliable enough for you. And in this case, you're moving this petal on top of this petal, and you're going to end up with 3 petals. A little bit of Tombow glue, and just move this around until you have a cone shape. And again, match up the petals as best you can. And again, put a paper clip in there to hold it until it's dry. The third piece, again, you do the same thing too. This time, the same method. This petal goes on top of this petal. It's a little bit harder because we're working with a smaller piece now, and you're going to end up with 2 petals. So again, some Tombow glue. Match up the petals and apply the paper clip. And set that aside to dry. Take the smallest petal now, and with the edge of a paintbrush or with your fingers, whatever you like, roll the edges towards the middle on both sides. I know it's hard to see, but my fingers get in the way. I find a paintbrush, the end of it kind of helps to get me to start turning it. I always describe it like rolling the edges of a pizza. You put a little glue on the inside and glue the ends together so that you have a little roll. And this is what it looks like when it's done. We'll set that aside to dry. Now this is the last piece, and most people have difficulty with this heart-shaped piece. You start with the left side and you roll again. I use my little paintbrush handle and I start rolling. Just roll the end in a little bit. Then you can finish it with your fingers. My big hands just get in the way, don't they? But you get the idea. Then you turn it around and you fold this end over it. Did you see what I did? Okay, just the roll here, and you just take this end and fold it over onto itself and shape it into a cone. This actually is going to be the middle part of the rose. Again, apply a little bit of glue on the inside to hold it. And I have one prepared for you so that you can see what it looks like. So now we have the 5 pieces that are necessary to make the rose. The next step is going to be to cut off the bottom ends of all of the pieces, and that is to allow each of the pieces to nest within each other in a level manner. So now that my flowers are dry, I remove the paper clip and I just fold it in half like this, and I snip off the bottom. That's so when I put the rose down, it will lay flat. And if you wish, you can cut a little bit more off if you find that your rose isn't lying flat. Do the same thing with the second one, with the second piece. Again, just snip off the bottom. And this is where you see the advantage of sponging versus non-sponging, because you want to cut the end of this particular piece that is not sponged. And if you hadn't sponged it, you'd say, okay, well, which end do I cut? Well, obviously it's this end, because the sponging is at the other end. Cut that off. And you see the same with this one. You just cut that off. With your bone folder, pick up each of the pieces and curl the petals backwards. Now I hold my finger on top of the petal as I'm curling it, and that prevents the cardstock from tearing. Second one. And the third one. This one's a little bit harder to do. In putting the rose together, you start with the biggest piece and end with the smallest piece when you are putting the rose together. You just put some Tombow glue and take the 3-petal one and put it inside. And kind of move it so that the petals are a little bit opposite each other, and press it down. You can shape the petals a little bit more later, but already it's looking like a little rose. Put some more Tombow glue in the center. You find that it might not want to stick right away. I like to use a lot of glue. Don't ask me why. Figure if I'm putting something together, I want it to stay. There we go. And with this one, this little one, I just put some glue around it and the bottom and stick it in the middle of the rose. That looks pretty good. And this one, again, the last piece, the tiniest, a little bit of glue on the bottom. And if you can't stick it right into the center, stick it right beside it. And there you have your rose. Now I usually use the vanilla shimmer spritz to put some spritz on top of the rose, and that gives it a really nice effect. And that's what I have done on this card. If you can see the close-up, you can see the shimmer on the card. I just love shimmer. This is one of the projects that I made for my craft table for this weekend. And I made some roses at the bottom of this picture frame that I covered. Thanks for watching, and try making a rose soon.